I am recording this at this point.
Where's the camera?
There's no camera. I'm taking right now. I'm doing this screen.
Can you hear us?
Later on, yes. I've got a microphone back here. I'll use this camera later. Right now, I'm just recording this. It should come better with this microphone. We're looking at your calculator. To turn it on, you press this button right here that says on.
Oh, mine was on.
You don't have to turn these off, really. They turn off automatically after a couple of minutes. So everyone should be staring at this screen. If you're not, click on again. It'll take you there. Because it's also the home screen. So click on a second time. It'll take you there. Okay?
Press on twice to listen home.
Okay.
Everyone,
Yes, please do. That's why I gave you the sheets. The sheets are for you to take notes in, so you can, as we go through, you can write down notes to yourself on how this works.
Like on the. Can we use a pen?
Yes. Notes. I don't care. It'll work. Okay. So let's talk about what is in your calculator and what you have. So let's look at the buttons. Probably one of the most important buttons, it's going to be your friend, is this button right here. It's escape, which in French is written just like escape.
Oh, cool.
Little Nemo. That's the escape button. If you're ever in a menu or you're somewhere you don't know how you got there, if you hit escape, it'll bring you out. Escape is a great way. So that button is super important. Below that, we've got this little button here. We're going to play with it a little bit because it allows you to switch from window to window when we're using Scratchpad, and we will only use Scratchpad. I will only teach you things that are usable when this calculator is in test mode. When you go to take the STAR test, or when you get to high school to take the algebra test, or you go to college, they'll put the calculator in test mode. So if I taught you stuff that would work not in test mode, I'd be kind of dooming you to failure, right?
So this is in test mode right now?
It is not. If it was in test mode, it'd be blinking at the top near the USB port.
So
There's a USB port right up here on top of it, and it'll plug into USB, and that's how it can be recharged if necessary. Yes, ma'am?
question, do we use these on test?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be your buddy. From now on, when you walk in the classroom, you're going to need your journal, your pencil, your calculator, and usually your computer. But the first three are always. I won't even write them anymore. They're just an automatic go get it. We will get numbers on the calculator to make your life better, because that way, when I show you some stuff, if somebody else uses your calculator, they will change the defaults, which will cause you to have a minor implosion. Yes?
The numbers are numbers for the computer?
They will be. I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go through these buttons, button by button. This is the tab key. We're going to use the tab. We won't use it so much now as when we get into graphing equations. So just kind of remember the tab key is there, but it's not going to get so important right now. Going across, we know this is the on key and the home key. This is what we call the dock, and then the menu key. These two are going to be super important too, and we'll get there. This here is a mouse pad. If you take and kind of rub it on your finger without pressing down, you'll notice that it works like a mouse pad. Okay? So that little center is actually a mouse pad, and I actually repair these calculators, so I have pieces over there that are old and broken, and you can see these are full computers. That screen you have is actually a monitor that plugs into a board. That pad is actually just that. It's a touchpad, just like on your computers.
That is cool.
Now, so you can move that around and touch things. And so there's going to be a couple ways to enter stuff. That is one. You can move things around here, and it'll touch all around, right? It'll move around that window, and that's a good way to menu. Except now I've made it funny. Okay, that's a good way to menu things, but I prefer buttons. And yes, ma'am.
When were these made?
I think these that we have here are about 6 years old now, or 7 years old. They came from another school. They're about $175 a piece. I will tell you that if you want your own, they retain their value. You can buy them used, but they're about $150 used. So they don't lose value. And the reason I know that is since I can rebuild them, I thought, man, I'll buy a bunch of broken ones and rebuild them. Well, the broken ones sell for a lot of money still. So I went away with that. So that's the top. Any questions on what the top keys are? let's look down here. This key is going to be super important. It's the control key. In your case, it's got a yellow control. Right up here, it's blue. The school editions are yellow, and the reason they're that way is to keep people from stealing and selling. If somebody's trying to hawk or sell a yellow calculator, they stole it.
Oh, so if you buy this and it's not for school,
It'll be black. They have pink. They have blue. They've got a bunch of colors. Okay. So the control key, if you press that, it changes. If you look at all the other keys, you'll notice right above them there's a little orange character. So like x squared. You see the x with a little 2 exponent? Everyone see that? Okay, go down from the control key, 2 keys down, and to the right you'll see a little x squared, which is an x with a 2 above it.
Oh, yes.
If you'll notice right above that in yellow, there's a radical sign for doing square roots. Everyone see that?
Yes.
So if you push the control key and then press that, it'll turn it to a square root. Does that make sense? So any key you see with an orange, in this case they're all blue, above it, that's important because it allows you to get there. I'm trying to go through here and figure out what other ones we know. Okay, we're going to go through a bunch of these. Okay. One other key I want you to know. See this keyboard down here? The keyboard on a computer is called a QWERTY keyboard, QWERTY, because that's the letters that appear across the top. This is what's called a non-QWERTY keyboard. And that's only important because testing says that you can't use a device with a QWERTY keyboard because it's too fast, which makes no sense to me. This has a non-QWERTY, so you can use it on tests. Is that kind of dumb?
Same thing.
It's dumb, but it's one of those rules. So now we're going to do something. I told you we're going to stay mostly in Scratchpad. I'm going to stay out of documents. Some of you are going to figure out how to use documents, and that's fine. But Scratchpad's all we need. So to get to Scratchpad, you'll notice that in front of things, I could use this thing here and scroll around until I got to Scratchpad and press calculate. Or I can just press the letter A, which is my choice.
Got it.
So the letter A takes you, because it's set. All the menus, you can use the pad to roll through them, or you can just press the number or letter associated with it. Yes, please. Do exactly what I'm doing.
Sweet.
If the guy next to you looks like they're lost, kind of let me know, because most people won't let me know. You gotta let me know. I'm trying for my psycho skills, but it's not working as far as reading minds. It just means I read mine. So there are some things in here. We're going to look at the 3 menus that's on that second sheet. There are really 3 available. So the second sheet I gave you has all the menus. It has 3 sets of menus, which are really how you get to the different menus in the program. The first one's pretty easy. It's the bar that says menu. Everyone see the button that says menu?
Yes, sir.
Press the menu button.
Oh.
It brings up a menu. And you'll see that I've got a bunch. Well, I happen to know one of these you guys are going to love, and that's 3. So if you press 3, or you can use your scroll pad to find it. If you press 3, algebra, it'll take you to my favorite friend called numerical solve. And we'll talk about nsolve, because nsolve is your greatest friend. We're going to do that. It'll be Monday. And then we'll use it continuously. Now, I got into menus, didn't I? How do I get out of all these menus?
Press on.
Escape.
Escape. Escape till you're gone. Boom, boom, boom. So that's the menu bar. The next one is the dock bar. The dock menu has a menu, but it only deals with this specific document, in this case, a Scratchpad. Now, probably the most important thing on this, we're going to do 2 things in here. The first thing we're going to do, I'm going to do it on mine, you'll notice that there's menus below. So if you press clear Scratchpad, it deletes everything. So dock B will clear off all your screen. Does that make sense? Most of you should have clear screens because I reset all these calculators. Mine didn't because I was playing with it on the board. And I should have cleaned it, but I didn't realize I left a radical sign. It's so radical of me. So the dock menu has things in your document. Does that make sense? Right now, we're going to go to the settings part. So
Settings
that's not
and
what
status?
I want settings. Maybe press something else. settings and status, which is number 7. So, everyone in settings? Okay, go to dock, select dock, go to settings and status, which is number 7, or you can just press the 7. Everyone there?
Why does it look like this?
It's supposed to look like that. Cool. Okay.
I'm going to look at this.
You want to start the handheld setup?
Oh my gosh.
Restore to factory defaults.
Interesting.
These are too much tabs.
Yours doesn't, or is yours all looking different?
Yes. It's
You
all
got
It's
the-
on handheld setup.
Mine looks like
Mine's, oh, maybe it's not letting me do settings correctly out of here. Okay, there it goes. Sorry, I get what happened. I pressed twice. So settings, document settings. Document settings are the one that people are going to change on you, and it's going to make you angry. They can't help themselves because they're monkeys.
so it's fun to change them.
It is if you want to get beat down. The first one is the display digits. It's important. In a few, we're going to do an exercise where you're going to look at digits, but it's going to limit you to 6 decimal points. And the reason it does that because it's on float 6. If you click that, you can change the float all the way down to float 12.
What does the float do?
The float is how many characters are on screen.
You want us to change it to 12?
No, leave it at 6 right now, and we'll bring it back after we do an exercise and change it, okay? I usually have mine in float 8. I don't like 6. It's too short for me.
What do you mean by character?
Characters, like each letter or each number is a character.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
yes.
Letters, numbers, but they all are characters. So it says angle is radian. You want it at radian. If it gets changed when we get to the geometry section, you're going to be saying naughty words. Exponential format, we want normal. If you change it to scientific, it'll show up with an E in the middle of your numbers, which stands for times 10 to whatever power follows. But it'll cause you confusion. You don't want that right now. When we get to scientific notation in 2 weeks, you might want that because it's helpful then. Right now, it's not helpful. Come on, you can do this. A real or complex, we want real, calculation, auto, vector format, rectangular, and base decimal. We want all that left alone. So hit OK.
Where's okay? Oh, I see.
It's all the way at the bottom. You gotta scroll down. I'm sorry, I went fast. Okay, so I gave you some problems there. I gave you a sheet, and I want everyone to put all 3 of your name if you're at a table. From your guys' left side to right side, if you're sitting all the way in the left chair, you're number 1. If you're in the middle chair, you're number 2. Or if you're far chair, you're number 3. Right now, you're 2 and 3, or 1 and 2, and you get to do 3 as a pair.
I call one.
So,
Wait,
Your
it's
bo-
right to left.
right, your whole group's name on this paper. You're getting 1 grade for all 3 of you.
So it's right.
It's really easy
side
because
to
we're going to do all the problems together.
left. Mr. Wheeler, it's from right to left, right?
No. Read is 1.
Oh.
So,
Oh, we have to solve the problem.
did you put your names on it? There's a line in the middle of the paper. Fold the paper so that right at that line, which won't be even, but I couldn't deal with that. So you've got the paper looking like this. So the paper is half and half long ways. On screen, they can't see that. So if somebody's listening to this on screen, fold your paper long ways by the line.
Do it. You can do it.
Okay, so let's start solving some problems. So the first one there, and I've got example ones, and then the 1, 2, 3 you guys will be solving. So right now you have to sit at your middle of your table. You failed at the line.
Yes.
I hated that. If you sit at your table, it says the first problem is what is the solution for x? Well, I gave you the wrong sheet. Did I give you the right sheet? What is 15 squared? I have the wrong sheet. Anybody have one that says what is the solution for?
Nope.
Just me? Good. Okay, so I had the right number. I just read one. So what is 15 squared?
I bet we're about to figure
What does it mean when you have to square something?
Times
Times itself. What we're going to do is, you'll see over here there's a little x squared button. So we're going to type 15. On your calculator, type 15. And then press that little x squared button.
Oh,
Got it.
oh, it's got an orange thing.
Don't worry about what my screen has.
Our screen has that too.
Okay. And then just hit enter. Enter is right over here. So enter 225 is the answer.
Oh, okay, right. Do we write 122.5?
So finding the square of a number is pretty simple. You type the number, you hit x squared, hit enter, and
There you go.
write it down. Okay, flip it over to x2.
Oh,
It says, what is 32 to the third power? Am I going too fast?
No.
So we know 32 to the third power. So all we're going to do is type in 32. If I'm going too fast, say so. Now we don't have a button to the third power, do we? To do that, right next to x squared, there's a little, we call it an up caret.
Yep.
Click the up caret.
okay.
It's called an up caret. I don't know why. I wasn't there when it was invented. So the up caret, and you'll notice it gave you a little box, right? Put 3 in there, and then hit enter.
Oh,
3,002,700.
32,000.
Oh, my bad. I feel like millions. I knew this.
Okay, cool.
On the line.
it's okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is straight.
So squares are really easy. They have their own button. Higher powers means you got to use the caret symbol. You can also use the caret symbol for a square. You can put up caret and just put 2. If you're bored and you just want to do one way. So here's what you're going to do. The person on the left, you're going to flip that paper back over, and the first problem there says, what is 2 to the power of 4? So the person on the left is going to solve it. The other 2 people are going to make sure they got it right before they write the answer down. Listen, read, listen. So the first person's going to solve it. They're going to share their answer with the other 2 and how they got it, and the other 2 are going to say yes or no, or if it's wrong, you're going to help each other. Then you're going to flip the paper over and pass it to the second person who's going to do problem 2. Then you're going to flip the paper back over and pass it to the third person who's going to do problem 3. Got that?
Got it.
All right, get to it. Use each other. You guys have a spare one, so why don't you do it? So solve it.
Got it.
Tell them how you do it.
I know,
Correct.
but oh, then I need to do it on mine.
Easy.
Is that how you do it? I got
That's why I didn't have my sheets. You only have to do one sheet. Now flip it over, and he does 2. He tells you what he's doing, and you agree. You may not write down until your partners agree with you.
Say what? It's only 36. Yes. You don't have to work right.
When you're done, kind of give me on a time.
Yeah.
Who's doing it? You're gonna tell them, you guys, you're not solving.
Okay.
You're supposed to be telling her if she's right.
What is it?
She's supposed to describe how she's doing it, and you're telling her if she's doing it right. Does that make sense? Well, I want you guys, you're going to talk them through it. Because if you can teach them how to do it, you're the master. You're better than just can.
Wait, is 18 to the power of 18?
Wait,
Mr. Wheeler, how are we supposed to do this?
She did the first one. Did she tell you how she did it?
Right.
I'm doing number 2.
What do you got? 2, 2.
So are we all
Yours, I'm telling them.
Oh,
So talk them through. So tell me.
you type in 56, and then you press under control to down wait. Oh,
Now he does 3. He tells, and you guys don't let him write the answer down unless you agree with how he did it. You're coaching it, yes. He is describing it because if you can describe it, that means he's the master. If you do it, you're a people.
It's 18 to the power of 6.
Don't go on after the 3. Don't go on. I'm going to show you the next part.
Oh, no, we don't go.
What is it called?
Don't go past the 3.
Only did 3.
I found out my sheet
Find out. Anyway,
Press the carrot.
You guys get to 3?
whatever. And,
Did you all get to 3?
put a 6 in the little blocks.
Did you get to 3?
Yes. That is
Did you get to 3?
You didn't tell us.
I bet you just all
Can you
this.
tell us how to do it? The master.
Right now. Did you guys agree with how he said to do it? If you can talk to somebody,
It's hard to work with these people.
Huh, you didn't do it.
so right now you're talking and they're watching and guiding.
Wait, I got
What's it
the
called?
carrot.
Okay.
Wait, we didn't.
They're so hard to work with.
He said the daily doodah.
We all know what it is.
Say carrot.
Carrot.
Carrot, there.
Remember, you're being the master now.
Now what?
I already said that. But y'all listen.
John, listen to them.
I did listen to them, and I said it all right.
Okay.
Hey, look, I got the
Okay.
answer.
Attention back up here. So let's look at the next thing, a square root. A square root is a fancy way to say what number times itself equals that number. Well, your calculator has that ability. It is one of the orange keys. In fact, it's the key right above the x squared. So the first problem there, it says, what is the square root of 16? Everyone see that?
Yes.
So what I'm going to do to get that is I'm going to press the control key. Then I'm going to press the x squared, which gives me the radical sign in a box inside of it.
That's confusing.
Control, in your case it's yellow,
Yeah.
and then that x squared that has the little radical, the square root sign. Did you press it?
Mine says ands too.
No, you press equals. You didn't do square root. If you see A and S, that means you press equals or you press some other function. Just backspace out of it. No, delete.
Wait, now what? So
There's a key right here called delete.
whoa.
Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to put in there 16
Enter.
and then enter.
Oh, we did it. 4.
The answer's 4.
Wow, that's cool.
But you have to be able to use the device. Technology is great, but you got to be able to use it or it's useless.
I know.
Let's go to example 2. It says, what is the square root of 361? So how do I do that?
Control square root x squared.
So I hit control,
What?
And then
What number is it?
we're x2. It says, what's the square root of 361?
Oh, it's 61. Control. I know it.
Control, that's square sign,
Equals
and
19.
then 361. Do not be a blurter.
Sorry.
And then hit enter. So 19 times 19 is 361. And if you want to check that, type 19 squared.
Oh, okay, I'll do that.
Because they're inverse functions. They're the opposite function.
I think I know.
Is that cool?
Did it?
All right, same thing we did before. The first person is going to answer question 1. They're going, before they write, they're going to explain to everyone key by key what they did. When your group agrees, then you can write down the answer and move it on.
Wait, do 361.
No, we put 19 because of
Okay, well, I think
Right
I did.
there.
Did we write it down?
Explain what you're doing.
We didn't write it.
And explain to your group what you're doing.
Like crazy, man. Not confused.
John, do you see the paper? One is X. It's empty. No, you
You
can't.
should be writing down answers, you guys aren't.
Oh my god.
Whoever's got that paper, you need to be writing down your
Oh, what is
answers.
square root of 100? Okay, so control. Okay. Square. You're not supposed to do it. And then put in 400.
You gotta do this.
Oh.
167. No, it didn't.
You only get out of it.
Okay.
What's that?
You got it. I'm sorry.
So you don't do the S.
Okay, wait, y'all can get mad at me if I can get mad at y'all.
That's gonna be a joke.
Oh, wait. 20.
Oh, okay, they'll do that.
Bang.
John got me.
Sorry.
And
Okay, you guys going through? Walking through?
so what is the square root of 3,100?
That's all.
Press control. Press the X
Square root of
then type in 3,
1,
3, 6. Press
2.
Oh, you get 50.
1, 2, 3.
What is the school? Okay,
Yes,
that's
this is not my favorite class.
What
Then you do number
is the
3.
square root? Square root of
Okay.
I don't know.
Control X2. Okay.
Wait, hold on.
How you figure out math? It's just like
Control X2.
When it says square root, that means it's a square like.
What is the square?
As soon as you hit a problem that says X1, wait, that's my example.
Oh.
Example 1, example 2, and then you do.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't listening. I was getting electric. What's up?
We know. Did you get your problem done?
I'm about to.
We'll do it.
Go, say it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
it.
Control X2.
Okay.
Don't even say it.
Oh, you know what? I don't care. Alright, Control X2 is 1, 2, 3,
You like doing that calculator?
0,
Yeah,
1.
we're
53, 50.
You can't. These actually have Wi-Fi capabilities.
I know,
They have those things, they call them hats. They have things on it. It's Wi-Fi. So we call it.
You're literally not even doing it right.
All right.
I just did it right, or else I would have gotten it.
Is anybody not done?
In a way, but no. Except they don't feel cool.
20.
What it is, they do.
Cool.
My dog's.
So finding the square root is pretty fast with a calculator. All right, let's look at this next one. The next one said, all right, up here. The next one says, what is 3 times 10 to the 5th?
Wait, what?
Do you see the problem? It says, what is 3 times 10 to the 5th?
It's 30.
So you're going to in a moment.
Okay.
So there are keys to do that, and there's a couple ways we could actually attach that. I could do the low-tech way, 3 times 10 up caret 5, right?
Yeah.
And I could get an answer.
Wait, what? Oh yeah, that's what I got. That's so cool.
Listen. Shh. Listen. There's also a key over here for 10 to the power. So I could type 3 times 10 to the power. It automatically throws that 10 in there, and all I got to do is type the 5th. It saves me a keystroke, right?
That's cool.
I think I did mine wrong. Because mine says there's an error.
Then you did it wrong.
These are smart.
Okay, I got it.
They're tools.
They're a lot smarter than I am.
No. You're using the tool that makes you the smart.
Wait, can you explain that one more time?
Sure.
Smarter than
So,
Don't go that far.
listen. So I'm typing 3 times. Now there's a button right over here, right below the x squared that says 10 to the x. So 3 times 10, and it automatically throws it up there for me. And all I got to do is type whatever I want it to be.
Oh, okay.
And then hit enter. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Let's try the second example. What is 3.45 times 10 to the negative 6? Got a little more complicated, right?
So decimal.
So I'm going to type 3. There's a decimal down here. 0.45. Braden, follow along and do. Times, and remember I've got a 10 to the something button, right? This is important. For those of you who are not listening, this is the time you want to listen. If you have a number that's a negative number and appears first, you cannot use the minus sign. There's actually a negative indicator. It's right at the bottom of your number pad. It shows a negative. This up here will not work. If you type it in, you'll get an error. So make sure you use the negative and 6, and then hit enter.
Oh my goodness.
Got it.
It's a lot of zeros.
It is, but it's not good. Right now, there's a problem.
Wait, is the A and S negative?
Yes.
That one.
You should not have A and S. Yes,
Above it.
yes, that's the negative. I got what you could say.
I got that.
Okay. Everyone good so far?
Yes.
I will tell you right now, this bites. Because it didn't give me the right answer. It happened with the float. I'm on float 6. How many decimal places do I have? After the decimal, how many places?
5.
Come on, count them. 6. Remember when it said float 6? Let's go back to our dock menu. To our settings. So dock. Settings. Come on, you pig. And document settings. Let's change our float all the way down to 12. And press OK. And do the same problem we did before, which is 3.45 times 10 to the negative 6. 3.45. Did I lose anybody in that process?
Oh.
Oh my.
Oh.
10 to the negative 6.
Oh, no,
That's like
Okay, what happened when you did that?
I got 3.45.
We got more accurate. Now think about this. If you were building a nuclear reactor and you were off by that much,
that's
Suck.
yeah, we're talking nuclear explosion, right?
you're dead.
And that's a bad thing. You say, I just rounded off. No. Did everyone get all that?
Yes, sir.
So when you change the float, you got to see more. If you leave it on float 12, you'll get great answers. They'll be really long, but you know they're accurate. Does that make sense?
So it'll make you happy.
So like all these.
It will make you happier, yes, because you won't. Here's what happens when it's like on float 6 or 4. The answer, this is 0.0000345. If you put 0.000003, your answer's wrong,
Yes.
even though you were right. Your
So
answer's
when all
wrong.
these other numbers have
So keep it on 12.
Yes, no.
I think I
it's
I think I'm gonna leave it on the 12.
You can leave it on the 12. Eventually, you'll see it gets a little annoying. Float 8 works well. Nothing's going to be out that far that we do. We're not like nuclear scientists.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, 8's fine. All right, so now do the problems you have.
Sorry, hold on. I'm gonna fix this.
You do number
Do
1.
your problems so you explain.
Okay. So 8 times
8's fine. 8 is more than accurate at this class. 6 will be controlled. When we get to doing scientific notation, it's all about control. But you need it to win.
Oh my gosh, it's expensive.
How you doing? And every keystroke is a possible to make a mistake. Okay, so write down your answer. You guys get it?
What?
Okay, so type in 3.45 times 0.05050 3.45 times button. And then do the
It'll get you enough to remember them.
And then do
What is it called again?
No recharge.
Okay.
point.
It's just another
So
I was like, what?
charge.
Yeah. Change to 8. Like, because remember you just said that, like, yeah, so you said 8 works for us, so I changed it to 8.
Ellen up here.
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah.
Okay. What is 1.5
I should have done it.
times 10 is negative 6?
okay, I got my answer.
I changed mine back to 8.
8 works.
Yeah, you got it right.
8 will work. A float of 8 will work in this class until we get to scientific notation.
It's 3.
And then you go float 12 for a while.
Okay.
Just because it's more accurate. Scientific notation deals with numbers that are super huge and super tiny, like the width of a cell.
Okay. Alright, so what
It's for the square root.
is
Yeah, you
1.5?
can use it. You can use the up there
Is
for anything.
1.45 times 10
It's for square.
the negative.
Okay, let's do.
Which one? Like, what is?
Oh my god, I'm gonna type.
Oh, you went ahead.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
What is 2.8 times 10 to the 4th? Alright, so
I just do it how
we're
it's
gonna put 2.8 and then time. Oh no, multiply times button multiply it by 10.
Best math I ever done
Oh,
my
I'm
whole
wrong.
life.
Then we're gonna hit the times 10 button and negative
Alright.
times.
Okay.
Any question you guys have with what we've done so far?
I didn't explain it.
Negative 4?
Oh, is it negative?
That's how
Like
10 to the 4th.
You
I got
Yes.
0.0.
I use this.
guys
Oh, I did.
I wish I could
My shirt was like,
a couple more.
my shirt was like,
So hopefully this
I was like, we don't do it this way.
I'm not good at explaining this thing. No, I know.
Stop worrying about what people think about how you're saying it. Don't worry, just go through it. Listen to them. You're sitting in the third spot, so listen to her when she talks and just repeat her words.
Mr. Wheeler, these are not as complicated.
All right.